Welcome back to Blind Man Morris, and today we're talking about the reasons why we didn't actually manage to get to the National this Sunday evening, and everybody would be driving home. We didn't get there. We got just the other side of Stow on the Wold, almost into Morton and the Marsh, and the car suffered really bad symptoms of vapour lock, which was compounded by a slight blow on the exhaust, which was blowing hot exhaust gases straight up onto the float bowl of the carburettor, which meant every time we hit any sort of traffic, the car would then stutter and cut out. So we've done a lot of preparation on this car before we went to the rally. 2 weeks before, we'd done at least 500 miles in a week in it. It never missed a beat. We went all the way down to Windsor and back, all the way up to the other side of Gloucester and back. No trouble at all, even in 25, 26 degree heat. Never had any issues. So we think it was a perfect storm, compounded by the ambient temperature being 26 degrees and above, and the slight leak coming from the exhaust manifold straight up onto the carb bowl. Even though we've got a heat shield on the fuel pump, we've got a rerouted fuel hose going round to the float bowl there, away from the manifold. We've got Grumpy's heat shield on the float bowl and on the inlet intake into the fuel pump over there. So we've done loads of different things. Fan belt was under the right temperature, plenty of airflow through the engine bay, and yet it's still cut out. It's an issue with modern ethanol blended fuels. They've got such a much lower boiling point of than the old 4-star, and if you get into crawling traffic, and we were in crawling traffic coming into Stow in the Wold for about 15 minutes up a hill, which is the absolute nightmare position for an old downdraft carburettor. And we'd already done 50 miles in warm conditions, and with the heat soak and everything else, we could hear the pump rattling away and not pumping fuel because it was pumping vapor. We managed to, the first time it did it, it literally cut out just by a garage. We pushed it straight into a disabled bay in the shade. I had ice water in the back of the car with a rag, which just in case this happened, and I cooled everything down. Car started straight up and off we went again through Stow on the Wold, got to Morton on the Marsh, and it was absolutely rammed. The traffic wasn't even moving. So good old car, it wouldn't cut out. We got it feathering the throttle. We got it to an entrance of a garden centre, and we could hear it gasping, looking for fuel, and managed to pull into the garden centre, pop the bonnet, let it all cool down. We went and had lunch, came back out, and then I did a full inspection of the exhaust, which was now cold. We started the engine when it was sat, and we realised it was blowing straight up all over the carburettor. Tried to reseat it again and again and again. It's really difficult to get it to seat correctly without a jack holding it up, and we didn't have any gum or anything to wrap the manifold temporarily, so we get a gas tight seal. So it was carrying on blowing onto the carburettor, and at that point we had to make a decision. So over to you, love.
Hello. So I'm not normally this side of the camera, but I just wanted to say that you might think to yourself, and some people probably did, why did we go home at that point? And the circumstances in our lives are different to other people's, and other people may well have made a different decision. But we have a different set of circumstances, which is that John is an astonishing human being, but he can't see. So when he's at home with his cars, absolutely fine. Out and about, he can't see. And so if I break down and I've got John in the car, I'm essentially on my own with John. And there's a safety issue there about somebody who has no perception of where they are visually if you're in the middle of the road and the car breaks down. And so I just wanted to say that we made the decision that was right for us, but it might not have been the decision other people would have made. So what I'd say to you is, if it happens to you, make the decision that you're happy with, because that's really important, is that you do what you think is the right thing to do. And that's what we did. And the other thing I'd say is that, you know what, this car is 64 years old, and we expect a lot of them. We don't have any modern cars, we all have all classic cars, and sometimes things happen, and that's life. And we stopped 3 times before we made the decision that we were going to have to come home. And I thought to myself, do I go 3 hours further north, or do I go 2 hours back? And actually we had to stop on the way home as well. We did manage to get home unaided, but we'd been lucky the 3 times, and we were able to pull into a car park. But had I got into a situation where I had broken down, in the road, on a dual carriageway or in the motorway or something like that, having John in the car and having to get him out of the car, etc., would be quite a different set of circumstances, and safety has to be paramount. And I think also that John would probably say that the safety of other people around us is quite important as well. So there's lots of traffic, we've also got to think about other road users as well. So if it happens to you, don't worry about it. That's what happens. They're old cars and it's life, and we love them, and it's a lifestyle that we choose. So accept it, fix it, move on, and don't worry about it. Let's go back talking about the cars.
So what is the remedy? We've diagnosed the fault, which was a combination of ambient temperature, which was over 26 degrees, ethanol fuels, crawling traffic, and an exhaust which was blowing, and heat soak. So how are we going to get around this and how are we going to fix it? First off, we've got to fix the blow on the exhaust, which was probably the main issue. So we
have done that.
We have loosened the exhaust, we have bought gum and refitted the exhaust and cured it and fitted it properly, and now it's not blowing. So no more heat coming out of the exhaust gases, which are running 130 to 200 degrees straight up onto the carb bowl. That's not going to help anybody. I think we're going to do some other work on this car. I think we will probably cut in a bonnet louver up on this back end of the bonnet here.
So you're going to put them, just to show,
round here. They're going to go along that section there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to cut some holes in the bonnet here and then put a louver over the top so it lets the heat out. So that's the heat rises, let out the top of it, because normally the heat rolls out. The air is sucked in through the radiator, blown back over the engine by the fan, and then goes out through those underneath the car and then out through around the exhaust and out the back of the car, which is brilliant, works fantastically when you're driving along. In crawling traffic with no airflow, not such a great idea. It doesn't do it. If we'd have been on 4-star, the old leaded petrol, we wouldn't have suffered from vapour lock. I mean, that's because it's got such a higher, I think it's 15 degrees higher boiling point, I think 4-star was. The other thing we could do is put an extra fan blade on the fan, which doubles the amount of air pulled through the radiator. We could even go to a 6-bladed midget fan, which pulls 3 times the amount of air through the radiator, so that's an option.
There's another thing, which is that this has got a 1098 manifold on it.
Yep.
And not a 948. It's a 948 engine, but it's got a 1098 manifold, and the distance between the carburettor and the engine is closer on a 1098 than it is on a 948. So another option would be to change the manifold, but hopefully the louvers will fix it.
Yes, or we don't drive this particular car in certain circumstances. I think the other thing was this car was fully loaded, absolutely, 3 adults, and we had a boot full of stuff, and I think the insulation of all the camping gear in the boot, because the boot was absolutely rammed, even under the luggage shelf, I think insulated the fuel in the tank and made it warm. So the fuel was warm in the tank. By the time they got it pumped, it was even warmer because it runs down under the car. And then by the time it got to the float bowl, it was being heated by the exhaust. And I think it was just, you know, all those things together made it cut out.
We haven't got 3 adults, just to explain that.
Well, one of them's big enough to be an adult.
yes, the size of an adult.
The size of an adult. Yeah, so I think, you know, who knows, maybe we could have jumped in a different Morris and come up, but we were completely knackered. We've been out 8 hours on the road trying to nurse this car home, so it was a shame to miss everybody. We'd like to have seen everyone and miss all the fun, but I think from our point of view, we didn't break down. Well, we didn't really break down, actually. We managed to notice the symptoms of the erratic pumping and knew we were just about to cut out, so we always found a spot off the road. But got to be aware of other road users, make sure it's safe for everybody and ourselves. And we got home safe, and Gassy got us home, no issues at all, had no oil use. The engine block and actually the coolant, because we did an infrared test, didn't we, when we got home?
Yeah, we did.
And it was all running completely normal temperature. So even with the exhaust blowing, when we were driving, when there was no traffic, the carb float bowl was only running at 45 degrees, which was perfectly acceptable. So it was literally an issue in crawling traffic. So if there hadn't been traffic in Stow on the Wold, Morton and the Marsh, followed by Warwick, Leamington, and then maybe around Leicester and Nottingham, I think it would have been a nightmare journey. So we decided to come home, and I think that was the right decision for us.
Really sad.
Sad, but maybe we should have took our 1954 Series 2 it would have taken us 3 days, and we should have started.
You are unkind.
I am
Poor old
unkind.
Libby.
Poor old Libby. And there we go.